Hey humans, it's Hannah. Welcome back to the second channel where all we do here is read your personal, true, scary stories that you have sent to me. And I react to them pretty blindly for a video. I never read them all the way through thoroughly. I get an idea of the story just so I know it's appropriate for the channel and everything like that. But for the most part, I react blindly. And if you want to send in your own scary story, instructions on how to do that are always in the description box right below this video. Please read the instructions carefully to give you, the best chance of your story being read. And yeah, I don't think we have any other intros. Let's get right into it. So this first story, this person actually sent me a follow-up email that was really sweet. So I wanted to read that first before we get into this story. So they said, "Hi, Hannah, if you ever read this, I want to mention that we broke up like half a year ago. Haha. So if you end up reading this and it ends up in a video, I hope you can say this so that I won't get sad and nostalgic. Anyways, love you." And I just wanted to read that because this person's going to go on to talk about their boyfriend. And I just want to give you, breakups are always for a good reason. I just want to remind you of that, even if it's heartbreaking. If it was meant to be, you wouldn't have broken up. So just wanted to, just stay strong is my message. So, okay, let's start the story. Hi, Hannah. First of all, I love your channel and how you talk about paranormal and true crime stuff. It's really something special and I appreciate it a lot. You've become one of my favorite YouTubers. Thank you. Second of all, if you end up reading this story in one of your videos, I don't mind if you say my first name. Last disclaimer, English is not my first language, so sorry if I make any mistakes. And people always say that, and then non-native English speakers always write the best. Like, you guys have better English than me, so don't worry. Now, here's the story that does not pass the Bechdel test. That pisses me off, but it's the only paranormal story I got. If you guys don't know what, I might be saying it wrong, but if you guys don't know what the Bechdel test is, it's a test that people apply to media, especially movies, to see if that piece of media has any sort of non-sexist core, I guess you could say. I should probably read a definition to make it more clear, but it basically proves the fact that most media is centered around men, and it's hard to find a movie or a piece of media that just goes to talk about only women and has nothing to do with men for a certain amount of time. This is just the AI overview from Google. The Bechdel test is a simple way to assess the representation of women in fiction, particularly film. It requires a work to feature at least two named female characters who have a conversation about something other than a man. So the bar is also very, very low. You can read more about that if you want to. Let's get back to the story. So for context, my boyfriend and I love the paranormal and the spooky. We often cuddle watching videos of ghost encounters. I'm much more skeptical than he is. Maybe it has to do with the fact that he lived at a haunted house as a kid and I didn't. I pretty much think the same stuff you say in your scary TikTok videos. That's why I don't show him your channel. However, we've always wanted to do a paranormal tour, so we went on a mini vacation to the capital and went on a tour in the, speaking of me mispronouncing stuff, El Cementerio General de Santiago, Santiago's General Cemetery. The tour guide told many stories, but the last one was the catalyst for this one. To make a long story short, the ghost of a woman has been roaming the Capilla Verde. Of course, there's a bunch of Spanish in this story that I can't say. Photo below. She attracts men by presenting herself as the type of woman the man likes. A guy had an encounter with this ghost, and then she started to haunt him every night in his bedroom. He found a witch to help him, I guess the equivalent of a medium in Latino America, who said that he had to find the ghost's grave, clean it, and bring her flowers every so often. He and this witch went to the tour, and the tour guide and guests helped them locate the grave of the woman. They found it and discovered her name was Katie. After the tour guide told the story, he said that we were going to try and contact Katie, something we've been trying to do with other spirits at the cemetery all night with some spirit box apps and an EMF detector. He then pointed to my boyfriend and asked him how he liked women just to tease him, and he answered like her, referring to me, as we held and looked at each other. I was charmed, but little did we know that the answer was going to be my doom. I offered offered myself to help with the spiritual session, so I went to the front with the other two people, holding our phone with the spirit box on. The method was that the guy would ask the questions and record everything the spirit boxes emitted. Then we would listen to it on low speed and try to make out what the ghost answered. While the tour guide asked questions, I stood right next to the wall of graves under Katie's. I then started feeling something weird in my right arm, the one right next to the graves, like a tingling or some weird pressure. I thought that maybe my handbag was too heavy and that I was an idiot for not bringing a backpack. The tour guide finished the recording and we all listened. When he asked, "Do you like any of the men present?" we all clearly heard the one wearing glasses. Only 3 people had glasses. One of them was my boyfriend. Then he asked her to tell us his name. I didn't make out anything. Some of the people heard Jamie, but my boyfriend told me that he heard Jer. His nickname was short for Jeremias. We were told not to identify ourselves if the ghost said our name, though, for protection. After the tour ended and we were out of the cemetery, the tour guide asked if a ghost said any of our names. My boyfriend told him what he heard, and the tour guide said that he was glad he didn't say anything back there because the horrible things that could have happened to us both. Wow, way to scare the crap out of your guests. We went back to the Airbnb, happy and satisfied with the experience of our first paranormal tour. I went to take a shower, but when I saw myself in the mirror, I noticed something strange on my right arm, a bruise, right where I felt the pressure while contacting Katie in the photo below. Oh my gosh. I told my boyfriend. We were scared but kind of excited. The experience was a success. I got a little haunting and a cool little story to tell people. When we do, we always say the same thing. It might be true or it might just be something to spice up the story, but we always conclude with the thought that Katie liked my boyfriend when she saw him, and when the tour guide asked how he liked women and he basically answered he liked me, she got jealous and tried to cause me harm. In conclusion, never identify yourself when a ghost says your name. Always ask witches for guidance, and probably don't get all mushy with your partner when contacting spirits. That's it. Hope this was interesting enough. Love you, Hannah. And here's a picture of the bruise. Oh my gosh. It is like a bruise, like right where you felt it, and it is kind of a mark like that. That's cuckoo bananas. Now, it could be a coincidence. Maybe, I get weird bruises on me all the time from playing with my dog, and she nips at me in a playful way. And sometimes I forget that I got bruises, or I run into things and I forget that I did it, and then I have a bruise later. So it could of course be a coincidence, but that's quite the coincidence if it is, because that is crazy timing that you felt that, you saw the bruise later, and all the other stuff that happened. What a cool story. Thank you so much for sending that in. Okay, right into story number 2. This one starts, "Hi Hannah, I love your channels and I've been meaning to send you some of my stories for a while, so I'm finally doing it now. You can share my name, Jamie, she, her. The background of these stories is that I worked at a movie theater for 10 years, making it up to assistant manager by the end. My first experience there was probably about 6 months after I started. I was cleaning theater 2 between shows by myself. I finished cleaning when I looked back up the auditorium to make sure that I didn't miss anything when I see my boss, Carla, watching me clean from the projector window in the booth. I was pretty annoyed that she felt that she needed to check up on me, but whatever. I walk out and go to announce that we're seating for that movie when I see Carla in the box office helping customers. I was like, WTF? But it was the middle of the set, so I had to go to the snack bar to help customers myself. After everything died down and all the movies started, I went to the box and asked my friend Tommy how long Carla had been in the box before finishing cleaning. He said that he had come down soon after I started cleaning, 6 theaters total, so she had been there a while. I told him what I had seen, and even he was like, "Oh, you probably saw a ghost." What? LOL, that was my first of many experiences there. That's so interesting, because why would a ghost look exactly like your boss, Carla? You know what I mean? Story 2. I was hanging out with Tommy after hours one night, and we were upstairs getting everything turned off after the last movie ended. From the booth, we watched the last customers leave, 2 guys, probably in their 20s or 30s, so we went downstairs to finish locking up and leave. Before he turned the last of the lights off, Tommy yelled out towards the bathroom, "Is anyone in there?" as we're supposed to do. Not expecting any response, but we both hear what sounds like a little old lady reply back, "I'm here." We had not sold a ticket to any older ladies for the entire last set, so we both just kind of froze and looked at each other. I was all for pretending like we hadn't heard anything, just shutting off the lights and getting the heck out. Tommy, though, is a textbook definition of a good customer service person, deciding that we had to check it out, because what if it was a real person? That was my thought, is like, what if you don't want to accidentally lock somebody in there? We tentatively made our way across the lobby to the bathrooms and peeked in. No one was there. There was nothing on the inside of that theater that could make noises, and we had already checked the front hallway to lock the front door, so we knew that there was no one out there or in the parking lot. We both heard it though. Finally, my last experience I had at the theater. We were getting remodeled, so we were going to be closed for a few months. It was the last night before close, and I was the closing manager. I was waiting for the last couple of movies to end, so I decided to explain to the ghost what was going to happen. I mean, in all the years I worked there, nothing ever made me feel like the ghost was negative, and I felt like we had a pretty decent working relationship. Ghost had never done anything super disruptive, just kind of popped up every now and again to remind us that it was there, so I didn't want it to think that we were abandoning it. So I was sitting on a table by Theater 1, telling the ghost that we were going to be gone for a while, and construction was going to happen, but it was going to make the theater nicer, and when it was finished, we'd all be back. To be honest, if I knew how our district manager was going to end up screwing us over in the end, I'd have told the ghost to F some stuff up, but I still thought things were going well at that point. When I finished my little speech, I felt something tug on my ponytail. Like a hypocrite, my immediate reaction was to freak out and take off running down the hallway. I realized what an idiot I was and stopped by the projector for Theater 4. At that point, I had to apologize to the ghost for freaking out and said I appreciated them letting me know that they understood what I was telling them. Sigh. I felt something tug at my ponytail again. By some act of God, I managed not to take off running again and squeaked out a thanks. My ponytail was high up on my head, so it was too high to catch on my shirt, so I have no idea what could have done it. I miss that ghost. So many stories. Love your channel and keep up the spooky work, Jamie. Thank you, Jamie. I love a good theater ghost. I am convinced, again, if ghosts are real and it's not just human hallucination or other explanations, if the ghosts in paranormal are real, I am convinced that if you want to interact with a ghost, it will be at a theater, movie theater, or a actual like a play theater, actor theater, but also like a hospital is another good place that I'm convinced all are haunted. Hotels, just because so much activity goes on at these places and so many weird things, and for some reason ghosts seem to be really attracted to those places. So I love a good theater story. It gets me in the vibe. So thank you so much for sending that in. Okay, moving right along to story number 3. Hi, Hannah. I'd appreciate if you could call me Ella, she/her. Sorry for any grammatical errors. English is my second language. I've been a longtime subscriber to your main channel and a relatively new subscriber to your second. Your videos on your second channel are almost the exact length of my ride to and from work, 50 minutes, and although I'm subscribed to many paranormal debunking YouTubers, your videos are the only ones that hold my attention for the entire length. That's so sweet. Thank you. It's just something about your voice, character, and of course, your love for dogs. I will include a bonus picture of my dog, Naja, which I hope will make you happy. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your dog's name. That is so sweet. If you don't know, if you have YouTube I guess if you have unlimited data too, but if you have YouTube Premium, you can download videos to watch them offline. So if you do listen to these videos in the car, just turn off the screen, please. Just a PSA. Please turn off the screen so you're not distracted, and it's fine. Just listen to these like a podcast because there's not too many assets. This pretty much is my podcast. So please turn off the screen if you listen in the car. But other than that, thank you so much. That's so nice of you. Okay, now for my story. I was a big believer of the paranormal when I was a kid. I remember watching all of the ghost sighting videos in the old YouTube days. I mean, the days when YouTube had just started to get a little big. I was terrified of the idea of seeing a ghost myself, and I walk around with my back against the wall at night. Oh, and I often walked around with my back against the wall at night, like when you were younger. I would slide against the wall into my old bedroom and turn on the light really quickly because I held the silly belief that ghosts can't be active in the light. You can imagine how terrified I was when one time my light bulb exploded when I did this once as a 9-year-old. That's so funny. Yeah, remember, I mean, even me as a full-time like YouTuber and content creator, even I miss those old days of YouTube. I'm not gonna lie, like as grateful as I am that they pay us to make content and that allows us to make free content for people to watch and be entertained for hours on end. I do miss just like old YouTube where like everybody just did it for fun. There was no sponsors, no affiliate links, no ads on the videos. Everybody went rogue. Like there was all this content on YouTube that would never be on the platform today that has since been deleted. So I do understand what you're saying and I miss that. And I also understand the thing about ghosts not being in the light. I think that's true, honestly. Like it feels like it's true anyway, because why else does everybody have the instinct to turn on the lights when they're scared? Just saying. Okay, I distinctly remember when my strong belief came crumbling down and turned me into a big debunker. One particular video I thought was extremely scary was one where a cupboard door keeps opening and closing with no one around. I have vowed never to watch it again, but my best friend at the time asked me why ghosts scared me so much, and I bravely showed her that video. To my surprise, she laughed and pointed out the very thin fishing line attached to the door. My mind was blown. It was very much a people will go on the internet to tell lies kind of situation. I remember rewatching all the scary videos I had seen and finding everything that was faked. Plus, as my friend put it, why would a dead person keep opening and closing a cupboard door the whole time? Seems like an awfully boring way to spend eternity. That line alone made me realize how silly it all was. I had turned into a disbeliever, or a non-believer, I think is maybe the I don't know. It says that's my document says that's the word. So anyway, almost overnight. Flash forward, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was at least 18 when my experience happened. I have ADHD and I struggle with sleeping. I can stay awake for hours because my brain doesn't seem to have an off button. To keep myself from getting distracted at night, I sleep with earplugs and an eye mask. The eye mask is especially necessary because I used to have many electrical equipment that would have little lights, like the computer and the gaming consoles. My room would just not be dark enough for me. Even if you don't have ADHD, it's really good to wear an eye mask at night. The darker, the better for your brain. I have a nightlight in the shape of a ghost, ironically, and I can turn on and off by pressing on the top of his head. I remember getting into bed, turning off the nightlight, and sliding the mask over my eyes. It took a while, like always, but I slowly began to doze off after a while. Quite suddenly, I felt like I was being violently punched on both of my shoulders. I gasped out loud and remember angrily pushing up my eye mask to see a figure hovering over me. It was more of a silhouette. It was perfectly smooth and didn't even have ears. The comparison might make this all sound funny, but it kind of reminded me of the Spider-Man suit. Thing is, when I moved so quickly, the figure seemed to almost nervously step back as if I scared it. With a quick movement, I turned on my ghost nightlight and the figure was gone. I remember sitting up straight in bed and I waited for at least 10 minutes to get up and fully turn on the lights in my room. I looked around even though I knew nobody was in there. My room was very small and there was no hiding space for a creature of that size that was looming over me earlier. I had a mirror on my desk and to my surprise, 2 red marks were on my shoulders. I crawled into bed with the lights still on and waited until morning because I was so scared. Needless to say, even though I'm still a debunker, I have started to believe a bit again. I don't believe that it was night terrors or anything like that. It felt too real and the the red marks were proof to me. It has been 10 years since then. Somehow this memory keeps playing in my head. I must say, it's not like I get a chill up my spine at the thought. I distinctly remember seeing the Spider-Man-like shape backing away in shock, and it strangely almost makes me feel bad for it. I'm sure it wasn't there to ask me out for a picnic. Even so, I feel strangely bad for scaring it. Almost like it was going to be its first haunting and I ruined everything. I hope its ghost mom wasn't too disappointed in it. Then again, sorry, not sorry. I've never had something like that happen again, which I didn't really mind. By the way, if by chance my old friend might recognize herself in this story, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your logical thinking has saved me a lot of hiding under the covers and sliding against the walls. I hope your pillow is always cold and may you never stub a toe. Thank you for reading, Ella. Thank you, Ella. So I do want to say a lot of people might go to like sleep paralysis for this one, like thinking that this is just a classic case of sleep paralysis. I don't think that's probably not the case, because for it to be sleep paralysis, you have to be paralyzed, right? And this person talked about waking up and moving very quickly. And if it was sleep paralysis, you would have had a full few moments of not being able to move, literally being paralyzed. But if you were paralyzed, then that would make a lot of sense, because people report stuff like this for sleep paralysis all the time. Additionally, you obviously wouldn't have found red marks on your arms where you felt like something shoved you. That was my other thought, was like, is this some kind of exploding head syndrome, which we've talked about before? Some people have exploding head syndrome where as they're dozing off, sometimes people are jerked awake, but other people have loud noise. Like it sounds like an explosion or a gunshot in your ear, like literally. So that was my other thought. But again, that doesn't really explain. It wasn't a noise. It was a thing that you saw and it was backing away and like you scared it. So that would be my last kind of speculation, wild speculation. Again, I'm not. Winnie, could you stop scratching at the carpet, girl? You're making a lot of noise. If we were going like the total paranormal route or the total like wild, crazy, unlikely scenarios route, this would make me think of like not a glitch in the Matrix, but like the multiple dimensions theory, or like the multiple universes all stuff happening at the same time, like that we're in an alternate dimension and then there's like a time slip or an alternate dimension slip where like somebody from another dimension just like accidentally came into yours for a second and it glitched, you know? And that is like another interesting explanation that some people have for ghosts, is that ghosts are not actually spirits. They're not actually people who have passed away, and that when you pass away, nothing happens, you know, that like kind of the atheist theory about when you pass away, you just go into the ground and literally just cease to exist. This is like, that's true, and that all these ghosts are not actually ghosts, but they are slips in dimensions, so that there's these characters or people from alternate dimensions or alternate timelines accidentally coming to ours and vice versa. So we're actually the ghosts to alternate timelines because we accidentally slip into theirs. And that would explain why this entity thing was scared of you, because it was, you know, literally like, oh shit, what the hell is this? And why are you in my room? Kind of thing. Obviously, I am very skeptical of that theory. I don't really believe that. I personally think that spirits would make more sense than that theory, but it is just something kind of fun to think about. Okay, story 4 for today starts, "Hi, Hannah. My name is Nadia, and I want to start off by apologizing for any possible mistakes, as I am not a native English speaker." Everybody's saying that today, and all your stories are just written beautifully. Trigger warning just in case for SA. Okay, everybody take that as your trigger warning. If that's a button for you, you might want to skip this story. This story is not too long, but it surely left a mark, and I get uneasy when I think about it. I need to explain one thing, though. It's a pretty important part of the story, and I couldn't find a particular name for it, so I don't know if it's a thing in other countries, too. So basically, in my country, when you live in an apartment, there's a little building for trash cans for people that live in the block of flats. You lock it with a key, so only the residents of said building can go inside. I'll call it the trash building, LOL. Pretty simple. Also, do other countries have this? I don't know what country you're in, but we have some, I'm sure it depends on the city. I'm sure I have never seen something particularly like that, and I've always rented, but I've had similar things. So in my first building that I lived for like 7 years, we had just a trash chute, but it was in the hallways in the locked building, so only residents could get to it. And it was just a little door in the hallway that you opened, and you stuffed your trash down there, and then it went to the parking garage, and it landed in the big trash in the parking garage, and then the trash would come pick it up. So I have heard of something similar, though, I swear, of like a little trash building where you can take out your trash, because the last place I lived had valet trash, and then the place I live now, we take our own trash, but it's just in the bins. But I think in like major cities, or like maybe like in New York or LA, where people have a harder time keeping unhoused people out, or people that don't live in that building out, I'm sure there's something similar to that. It doesn't sound weird, if that makes sense. So anyway, okay, let's get to the actual story. This happened pretty long ago. I was probably between the ages of 8 and 10, so I was very young. I was on my way to my grandma's house and walked past another apartment block. Thank goodness it wasn't mine, and right next to it was the trash building. There was an old man inside, probably around 70 years old, which on its own is pretty normal. I thought he was simply taking out the trash. But as I was walking past that building, he didn't take his eyes off of me for even a second. I decided to stop looking and just walked a bit faster because that creeped me out. Then he started coughing really loudly, and even though it sounded very fake and for the purpose of getting my attention, I just couldn't ignore it any longer. I felt like I had to look, so my curiosity just got the better of me. I immediately regretted it. When I looked back at the creepy man, he was touching his you-know-what, still looking and even winking at me. That's so disturbing. Thank you for censoring, though, for YouTube purposes. I appreciate that, but I think everybody knows what you mean. That's especially you're a kid. Oh my God. Okay. Let me finish your story first. I naturally immediately turned away and started running. Thankfully, he didn't follow me or anything like that. I made it safe and sound to my grandma's house. If this story in and of itself doesn't sound bad enough, I think that what I'm about to say might be even worse. I didn't know to call the police, and I didn't tell a single soul about this encounter either because I was scared that nobody would believe me. So far, all I know, this creep could have done the same thing to someone else and could still be out there. I feel guilty about it to this day, even though I know that I was just a child, but sometimes it still lingers in the back of my mind anyway. If this story made it in a video, I want to thank everyone for listening to it. Oh my gosh, that Nadia, that's so fucked up that happened to you. I am so sorry. And like you said, you were a child. It's not your, it's never a victim's responsibility to call the police, especially in SA situations or situations like this, because our society is so bad at believing victims. And often when they go to police, they get punished for trying to report it to the police. They get punished by victim blaming or them just not being believed and stuff. So even if you were a full-grown adult, it wouldn't have been your fault or your responsibility if this creep continued to do it. But especially the fact that you were just a child, you probably didn't even really understand what he was doing. It just probably felt really yucky, and like you just knew it was wrong. You know how a lot of kids, like, they don't really understand when they're being victimized, and adults manipulate them into thinking it's their fault or that they asked for it and stuff. So like you probably couldn't even fully grasp what he was doing. And so it's just like there's absolutely nothing that you should have done differently in this situation. Obviously, some kids are going to have the instinct to tell an adult, and then the adult is going to call the police, right? Some kids, that's just not going to occur to them based on, you know, the stage of life that they're in. So I just hope, I know you said that you don't beat yourself up about it, but that it still lingers in the back of your mind. And I hope that you like really truly understand that that was not your fault and that was just a creep. Even if he did go on to do it to other people, that's still not your fault or your responsibility. That is all on him for being creepy. And I really hope that he either got the help, the mental health help that he needed, obviously, or got at least arrested so he wasn't doing that to other people, or both, ideally. But who knows? I'm not sure what country you're from, but yeah, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Okay, we have one more really short story for today that we're going to do. So this is the fifth story. This says, Hi, Hannah. My name is Emily, and you can refer to me as such. I have two short stories for you. I recently thought of these again and realized that they were probably a lot creepier than I thought in the moment. Oh, I have so many of those where it's just like you don't even because you're panicked in the moment and you're in shock. So you don't even think about it until later and you're like, oh my God, that was really serious. Okay. Your first story says, as a child, I was very much the mom I threw up meme. Because of this, it wasn't uncommon for me to wake my mom up in the middle of the night with some sort of sickness. This one particular night, I had worked up a pretty bad fever. However, I was unaware of this. I remember having this feeling of heaviness and uncomfort, and I went to my parents' room and woke up my mom and said, it feels like there's 100 people in my room with me. Obviously taken aback, my mom was confused and jolted awake. She led me back to the room and gave me some medicine. I can't help but think of how terrifying that must have been sounding from an 11-year-old. Oh my gosh. Yes. I was definitely not the I'm sick kid, but I was definitely the every single night I'm having a nightmare. There's somebody in my closet. I was such a paranoid, scared little kid. And turns out I had undiagnosed OCD. So, that was one thing. I was having a lot of intrusive thoughts and magical thinking that I didn't understand. And it wasn't well understood in the 90s that OCD was anything other than cleaning a lot. And so I had a lot of those kind of intrusive thoughts that I would bother my mom about. And does anybody else, if you have a mom and a dad that were married when you were a kid, does anybody else have a dad that was just completely useless in those situations? My mom was the only one that would be able to get up, literally, because my dad, once he is asleep, to this day, once he's asleep, it's over. He's useless until he's fully awake again. But yeah, anyway, that must have been pretty scary for your mom, and for you too, honestly. If you don't know what a fever is and you have a super high fever, terrifying. Okay. Second story. Fortunately, I have grown out of this, but when I was a kid, I repeatedly sleptwalked. Sleptwalked. Okay, sorry to keep making this about me, but me too. These stories could have come from my childhood. I also sleepwalked as a kid and then grew out of it. I knew that this made my mom nervous since I grew up in a split-level house and there was a lot of stairs. She told me when I was a bit older that quite a few times I would walk down 3 levels to her and my dad in the middle of the night and insist that I was going to the basement to play with the cat. She would lead me back upstairs every time, but she always said that she was so scared to touch me because it's never a good idea to wake up someone who's actively sleepwalking. I know that these stories aren't quite as spooky or scary as someone who you usually cover, but I wanted to share some more lighthearted stories for you. I find that things that kids do like this are so scary sometimes. I just wanted to say I love your videos on both channels and they always help me unwind from my long days of work. Your presence reminds me a lot of my late mother and it's always so comforting and calming. I'm pretty sure that she would have loved your videos. She's the reason I'm super into spooky and creepy things. Sorry I rambled for so long. You didn't, that's so sweet. And I love that you said I remind you of your late mother. First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss, especially because your mom was in these stories. And I'm so sorry that you lost your mom. But I feel like us as children were I feel like we're on the same wavelength. I'll just say that, Emily, because this is very relatable to me. I have never, I know that you shouldn't mess with sleepwalking people that much. For me, when I was a kid and I sleptwalked a few times, my mom would just, when she realized that I was sleeping, she would just most of the time I needed to go to the bathroom and I couldn't figure out how to go to the bathroom. So she would take me into the bathroom. She would guide me into the bathroom and help me go pee. And then she would guide me back to bed. And all that would happen while I was asleep, which was probably so jarring for a parent. I want to be a parent someday really bad, but I am terrified of that kind of thing because I don't know. It's just like you said, it's a little scary. And you're like, what if they're sleepwalking and I don't know that they're sleepwalking and then they do something, turn on the stove or something like that? Absolutely terrifying. And I also feel you, you said you're into super spooky and creepy things and we were both children like this. And I am interested in that correlation because I was a scared child. I was not allowed to watch any horror movies, was not allowed to do anything scary or see anything scary because I was a very impressionable, paranoid little kid and had a very active imagination. So if I saw even a slightly scary thing, I was nightmares and sleeping on my mom's floor for months. I remember even like the Disney Channel movie. Remember the Disney Channel movie, Don't Look Under the Bed? Even the preview, I didn't even watch the movie, but on Disney Channel, they showed a trailer for it and this creepy hand coming out from under the bed. I'll see if I can find this. I'm sure I can on you. I'm sure it's on YouTube. So I'll have Taylor include it here.
Frances McCullough is being framed by the boogeyman. The only one who can help her is an imaginary friend named Larry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah.
So, leave the light on. Keep the door open. And whatever you do, don't look under the bed.
When I look back on that, it's not as scary as I remembered it, but I remember even seeing the trailer, I was ruined for months. And then it's like I overcompensated when I became an adult, and then I became really interested in horror movies and horror and ghosts and stuff. It's a comforting way to confront my childhood fears, if that makes sense. Like, it just like, I don't know, it's been very therapeutic to get like into testing my morbid curiosity and testing how far down these dark rabbit holes I can go, you know, if that makes sense. And I wonder if you can relate to that. So thank you again so much for your story. Okay, we're going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you follow me on Instagram and or Patreon and or know what's going on, I just want to give everybody a like very unsatisfying update. I have to be vague. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to trigger something of some sorts. And I just want to let you know that if you know what's going on or you were part of the saga, I will speak on it when I can. I will fill you guys in when I can. If you don't know what's going on, don't worry. Like I said, again, I will tell you guys eventually. I will explain everything when I can. But like I said, please be vague in the comments and everything. I just know I'm going to get a lot of questions about it. But please, if you guys need to talk about this amongst yourself, please do it in DMs or other private matters if you can. That being said, please go follow me on TikTok and Instagram, because as a result of this, it has been a great wake-up call of making sure that people know where to find me. We'll just say that, if that gives you any indication. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm going to go. Thank you. How many times am I going to say thank you for watching? Thank you. Please like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.